If you've done this, you're already part of a revolution in mobile technology. Biometrics, the science of measuring features or functions of the human body to establish your identity. Passwords, pins, usernames, infuriatingly hard to remember and downright dangerous. That's why innovative startups are popping up around the world, solving the security problem with biometrics.
We actually use the vein patterns in your eye.
iVerify discovered that the blood vessels in the whites of your eyes are as unique as the whorls on the tips of your fingers.
So the iris, many people know the iris, they expect that to be a good biometric, and it is, but it actually takes infrared light and an infrared camera, which phones don't have. We use just an ordinary phone.
Enter my name. Gosh, this is fast. Done.
iVerify caught the attention of Samsung, Sprint, and Wells Fargo. They all invested. Now the Kansas City-based company is using that backing to crack two markets where security is paramount.
Number one is enterprises. Big companies want to protect access to their networks. There's a breach like every day. The second one is, broadly mobile banking or mobile financial services.
According to one forecast, by 2019, 5.5 billion people will use biometric authentication on mobile and wearable devices. MasterCard has been experimenting with biometrics too, and recently tested an app using voice and facial recognition for 14,000 e-commerce transactions. MasterCard also invested in Bionim. This Toronto-based startup has developed a wristband, the $79 NIMI, that harnesses what may be the most secure biometric of all, your heartbeat.
If you look at all of the little peaks and valleys in the shape of that waveform, that's unique to you. We've now tied this to you. It's in an active state because it knows it's still on your wrist.
Right.
And now we can have it do stuff. For example, we can have it unlock a phone.
That's the beauty of persistent identity. Imagine how seamless life would be if logging onto your email, unlocking your car, or checking into a flight were as easy as strapping on a wristband and verifying your ECG. The device does the rest.
Is Bionim to kill the password? I don't know if we use that word too much, but probably yes.
Biometric screening is a way of using an individual's specific physical or biological characteristics to verify identity. Its purpose is to tighten security, protecting personal documents such as passports or contracts, and making actions like withdrawing money or entering private premises safer and easier. The oldest and most widely used form is digital fingerprinting. Unique and permanent, except when a person suffers severe burns, the patterns making up our fingerprints are identifiable thanks to regions known as deltas, forks, and ridge endings. Each print contains up to 90 of these points, but using just a dozen or so should be enough to identify one identical twin from another. Eye scans work in a similar way. Thanks to the distinct structure of each individual iris, reliable identification is possible. The technique, however, is costly. A less expensive option, using a palm morphology reader. The only problem, the form of a person's hand changes over time. This technique can be useful, however, for quick identification purposes even in dusty or dirty conditions, and that's why it's often used on construction sites and at harbours. Finger or hand vein recognition is another way of checking identity, as infrared light shows the patterns unique to each individual. Already present at birth, they remain with us until we die. Finally, there's the good old-fashioned signing on the dotted line of contracts and papers.
My house was broken into last week. The police can identify the culprit from blood found at the scene. How can they do that? To understand this, we need to state what is meant by DNA fingerprinting and describe some uses of DNA fingerprinting. The burglar smashed a window, leaving blood on the broken glass. Samples of blood, hair or skin can be collected from a crime scene. Forensic scientists investigate the samples in a lab. First, they extract DNA from the cells. They use enzymes to cut the DNA into shorter fragments. The fragments are placed into a well in a gel. They are separated using an electric current. Different sized fragments travel different distances in the gel. The smallest fragments travel the furthest. A pattern of bands is produced. This can be compared with the patterns of DNA from possible suspects. The enzymes cut different people's DNA in different places, producing a different set of fragments. The different sets of DNA fragments will produce different patterns of bands when separated on a gel. Each person has unique DNA, which will produce a unique pattern that can be used to identify them. If two patterns match, the samples are from the same person.
Doing it yet is a precursor to the implementation of the RFID microchip. It says the rapid DNA testing pilot program is expected to launch next week at 2 locations along the U.S.-Mexico border. All right. This article came on May 1st, which is today. The Department of Homeland Security is expecting to launch a DNA testing pilot program at the southern border next week to identify and prosecute immigrants posing as families. An agency official with knowledge of the program told BuzzFeed News. All right, the pilot program, which was first reported by CNN, will be rolled out for 2 to 3 days at the border locations, at 2 border locations. U.S. Customs and Border Protection will refer adults they find posing as families to ICE, Homeland Security investigations for possible prosecution. All right.
Shalom, all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Greatmilstone. Ba'Shem Rakak Wadash. My name is Chicago from Plain Tables Camp in Philly. Now, the different, programs that you just seen are all precursors to the end of the, biometrics identification for security purposes. The end of the matter is going to be the RFID microchip. All right, and what you've seen before is they're just precursors. A person or thing that comes before another of the same kind, a forerunner. All right. So the point is identification, how you going to identify a person. All right. So the forerunner, predecessor, forefather. It means beforehand. To run beforehand. Precursor. All right. Where there's charagma or chragma. In this context, the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as the badge of the followers of the Antichrist, which is plural. That's Esau, Edom. Come down here, charagma. For example, a stamp as a badge of servitude. All right, the state of being a slave or completely subject to someone more powerful. All right, so that's the mark that's going to be inserted into everyone who is not found written, or the most that are not found written in the book of life. Look up mark. It says a visible impression, a badge, a brand, or other visible sign assumed or imposed. All right. Distinguishing feature. Mark. Revelation 13:16, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in the right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And his number is 666. Charagma is going to be the RFID microchip inserted in the person's right arm or forehead. Now, I just seen they had the program started up last year, May 1st. More than likely it was before that, but that's the day I did the video May 1st, 2019. And this is a more current article brother that sent through. Trump administration to begin collecting DNA from detained immigrants. The United States government will begin collecting DNA of detained immigrants through pilot programs this week, according to a privacy impact assessment that was published today by the Department of Homeland Security. The Trump administration plans to collect genetic samples from people detained by U.S. Customs and Border Protection and immigrants and Customs Enforcement. Was first reported in October. All right, which that's a lie, because you can see the article I did was May 1st. All right, and immigrants and Customs Enforcement. That's clearly a lie. All right, that's clearly incorrect. That was back in May 1st, 2019, and probably even before that. All right, CBP and ICE don't currently have systems or operating procedures in place for this large-scale collection of genetic material, but they will start to implement the policy through small pilot programs, like the elders and apostles are going into, but how it's gradual. All these form of biometric identification were gradual. It's going to lead up to whatever precursors that are going to lead up to the insertion of the RFID microchip into your body if you're not of the elect. All right, CBP will initially, that means to begin at first, there we go, collect data only in its Detroit, Michigan sector and at the Eagle Passport of entry in Texas before scaling up to every sector and port of entry within 3 years. ICE pilot program will begin in one of its regions only, but the assessment did not identify which one. All right, and they're saying it's legal here. It's legal. The administration, who was president, Bush, the administration says the policy falls under the DNA fingerprint of 2005, which requires that anyone arrested for a federal crime provide a genetic sample at the time immigrants detained on entry in the United States were not included in that group. The new policy says they are. Okay, I didn't know that. So that's how they're getting you legally. They're saying it's legal because of the new policy. So so-called immigrants, which Mexicans and people's brothers south of the border of America, they were now they're added to the law or policy. Falls under the policy, it says here. All right, genetic samples collected by CBP and ICE agents will be mailed to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, where they will be processed and stored in the agency's combined DNA index system, CODIS. All right. So it doesn't matter if you're a criminal or not. They'll put you in a database if you're attempting to illegally enter the United States and you're caught. They want to put you in a database. All right. And eventually, it's going to lead up to this marked RFID microchip that's used as a badge of servitude to identify you, that you're owned by, you're the slave of Esau, Edom. All right. And these different DNA programs and biometric programs are precursors to the eventual implementation of the RFID microchip.
I'm here to meet some of the thousands of people in the country who are adapting their own bodies, who are inserting microchips under their skin. It means they may never have to carry a house key, train ticket, or bank card ever again. This is a microchipping party. Hannah's getting an electronic chip implanted into her hand. She believes one day we'll all be chipped like her.
So congratulations, Hannah.
Thank you.
You've been chipped?
Yes, I have.
How does it feel?
It feels good. I'm excited to see what I'll be able to do now.
Can I touch it?
Yeah, you can feel it there. I feel like this is the future. It's the next big thing that's gonna happen. Happy cyborg birthday.
Happy cyborg birthday to you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.